Dr. Vaishali and I'm reading from the book Substance of Homeopathy, book written by Dr. Rajan Shankaran, chapter number 36, The Salt. And today's salt, I start with the Calcarea iodita. In stage 1, the main theme of Calcarea iodita is feeling that he may be terribly disappointed, betrayed, hurt, or even starved by the person on whom he is dependent. There is a dependence and need for the security. But at the same time, he needs to be very hard and strong, prepared for the betrayal. In second stage, they are extremely pleasing people, always very cheerful, making people laugh and feel happy in their presence, always smiling and agreeable. They never contradict or go against anyone or anyone. There are no clashes. They are very diplomatic. I had a case of doctor who had affair with about 80 women at the same period of his life. Each woman knew about the other, but he was so nice and tactful that there was never any problem. He did well on the Calcarea iodita. Calcarea iodita has a marked tubercular elements, and these people show the changeability, desire for change and activity, and love to travel. In third stage, they can be very aggressive yet full of fear, and they are very angry with rapidly. They get angry very rapidly and are very impulsive. In a fourth stage, I have not seen this stage yet. And physical symptoms are very hot patient, usually emaciated but can be very obese. I have found that when I prescribe correctly Calcarea iodita, the obese people become obese Calcarea iodita patient lose weight and enlarge hard glands, thyroid affections, palpitation, increased appetite, and sudden violent pain. Next salt is Calcarea arsenicosa. Calcarea arsenicosa is the classic picture of a person who feels insecure as well as mistrustful. In arsenic, there is a feeling I need people, but I cannot trust them. They may rob me, and they cannot trust anymore. In Calcarea arsenicosa, the need for people is almost a dependence, and with the mistrust make him highly anxious, insecure people. In stage first, the Calcarea arsenicosa person feels I am maybe cheated, let down by the people on whom I depend for protection. In second stage, they are very careful and cautious, very independent. In third stage, full of anxiety, extremely insecure. I had a case of menopausal woman who came with the complaint of severe palpitation which came on from the least anxiety, fright or the bad news. She had a son and daughter. The son went abroad and she got the feeling that he might never come back. All her complaints were made worse when he left, and especially after her husband fell ill. She felt that her future source of the support means in case of her husband died, then he had become untrustworthy. This created extreme anxiety in her, and she would call her son over the phone every week. And I gave her a Calcarea arsenicosa on this feature of mistrust and insecurity. Also, Fatak mentioned in Materia Medica that complaint of a fat woman around the climactic when the least emotions cause the palpitation is the rubric in mentioned by the Fatak. In fourth stage, there is extreme sadness, which is mentioned in the Kant's lesser writing. Physical symptoms are they are very chilly patient, palpitation from the least emotions, breathlessness on ascending stair. Next salt is Baryta carbonica. In Baryta carbonica, in first stage, the theme of Baryta carbonica is the vital reaction that is needed in a person who is totally dependent on other, almost like a cripple or an imbecile. Delusion that he walks on his knee. Delusion that a beloved friend is sick and dying. Taken together, these two delusions show the dependent, crippled feeling of Baryta carbonica and the fear of losing his support. So in second stage, the Baryta carbonica person can be very independent, even supportive of other people. They are very responsible, especially about the family affair. So rubric is anxious about domestic affair, cares about domestic affairs, anxiety about the friends at home, anxiety for others. They can be extremely hardworking, means industrious, and very organized and conscientious about the trifle and take pain to make sure of everything. And so they are very careful, and they consequently occupy quite responsible, dependable position in their work and in the society. They are very stable and careful. For example, I have a patient who would take a very good care of his car, check out every little detail and maintain it well. He would advise others on how to look after their cars and would personally take them to be service station, etc. In the third stage, they can be extremely anxious, especially without support. They are totally irresolute and depend completely on someone to make a decision for them. They are so dependent. It is childish. Fatak's writes, the children are late coming into the usefulness to take on their own responsibility and do their work. They are afraid of anything new. So the rubric is fear of stranger. They feel laughed and criticized. Barata carbonica has a marked Forsaken feeling. There are many fears which are often childish. Fear in children, small things can make them extremely anxious. So the rubric is anxiety about trifles. Delusion, she thinks every noise is cry of fire and then trembles. Starting starts easily, startling from noise and from fright in general. In the third stage, Barata carbonica people avoid responsibility and feel a sense of incapacity. This feeling of incapacity is very marked prominent. In the fourth stage, imbecility, totally childish behavior and childishness. Physical symptoms are chilly patient, premature aging, falling of hair, baldness, loss of memory, and hypertension. Atherosclerosis, and all at very young age. Craving for the sweets, history of recurrent attack of tonsillitis, and maybe emaciated. Clinical observations are, we find two type of the patient: the totally dependent person or the cope-up one. The first type dependent on someone for every little decision. They are usually accompanied by someone who speak for them, answer and any question, etc. And then there is a cope-up person who bring others to you as a patient and may even come with them on subsequent follow-up. He will make sure of every detail several times before he leaves. For example, when to take medicine, how many pills, when to come again, etc. In many Barata patients, we find a kind of simplicity, naivety, and they are rather credulous, and they can be resistant to change. For example, they would try and avoid any change in their life, change in occupations, locations, etc. They are quite conservative in their way of dressing and living. They are the last people to accept new fashion, and these people generally don't like to be noticed or brought into the prominence. For example, they would very much hesitate to wear something that stand out, like a shiny new shoe. They avoid giving the view, opinion easily for fear of being criticized. The cope-up Barata carbonica may sometimes seems like the aurum metallicum because of the responsible, conscientious attitude and care for other sensibilitic dimension. Next sort is Barata phosphorica. I have not used this remedy much, but the main theme would be I am unloved, uncared for, treating indifferently by the person I am totally dependent on. In the second stage, we find C, an independent person who is also very friendly and sympathetic. In the third stage, the person would be more anxious even than the Barata carbonica. Next salt is Barata sulfurica. In the first stage, the main feeling of I am scorned, insulted by the person I am so totally dependent on. And in second stage, the person is self-dependent and make a lot of effort to be respected. It is a combination of dependability and the dignity. They are industrious, dependable and dignified people. A man with this quality will reach high position. And third and fourth stage are very well illustrated by the following case. A 46-year-old lady came with the complaint of psoriasis of the palm and sole. Since 4 years she was accompanied by her husband, and she was not at all relaxing during that interview. She told us that she was never a bold person, but in 1987, after they shifted to different city with new people and new environment, she had nervous breakdown with a tremendous fear of being alone or going out alone. She cannot mix easily. Feels she does not know how to talk and that people would laugh at her. The psoriasis started a year after the nervous breakdown, and describing her nature, the husband says she cannot make deep friendships since she feels offended or insulted easily. She feels others are avoiding her and want to avoid them, and feels neglected and would weep and brood about it. She has a weak memory, and she has anxious and frightful dreams. The husband says whenever she go out and she involuntarily looks at the genital of male, she feels they will notice it and this would create a bad impression about her and people would lose respect for her. She craves salt and sour things and pickle. She cannot tolerate hunger. This led in receive a Barata sulfurica and improved steadily with it. The following rubrics of the Barata sulfurica are applicable in this case: fear of conversation, timid, bashful, memory weakness, eating before aggravates, cannot bear hunger. Needless to say, the remedy was not prescribed on this indication alone, but on the appreciations of the case as a whole. And in a fourth stage, during the nervous breakdown, she would not talk, would not cook, and very much afraid of going out, just sat on the bed and did nothing. Now, next salt is Barata arsenicosa. In the first stage, the main feeling of Barata arsenicosa is I cannot trust the person on whom I am totally dependent. In the second stage, they are very conscientious and independent and responsible people. They are fastidious, methodical, highly organized, efficient, and industrious. They are very caring for others, very friendly, and would not offend anyone. And they are very careful about their own health and also the health of others. In the third stage, they can be very shy, bashful, nervous, extremely anxious about the smallest things, especially with respect to health. They can get panicky, frightened, and restless. They do not trust anyone, including the physician, often change the doctor, irresolute, very dependent, yet mistrustful. And in a fourth stage, I have not seen this stage yet. And physical symptoms are they are very chilly patient, early senility with very deep-seated chronic progressive disorder like diabetes, ulcer, hypertension, etc., coming on at any age, in maybe a early age. Sudden acute manifestations may also be found. Now next is metallic salt. Of the metallic salt, I have some experience with alumina silicata, aurum sulfuricum, mercurius added flavors, aurum muriaticum, aurum arsenicosum, mercurius added rubrum, and arsenic sulflavum. Besides this, I have quite often used the salt of certain alkaloids, for example, chininum arsenicosum and chininum sulfuricum. From experience with this salt, I am able to say that the basic theme that emerged in the metallic salt is, like other salt already studied, the combined feeling of two components. This combined feeling has an intensity and depth which lies between the two, not greater. This my experience aurum sulfuricum has a depth and intensity greater than the sulfur but less than aurum metallicum. To understand this better, we observe the aurum muriaticum has a psychosyphilitic dimension, whereas aurum metallicum is a hopeless syphilitic dimension. Some of the metallic salt are further explained through the case, but the basic method of understanding them is described above, like a theme of their experience. Now, case of Mr. M, 62 years, came into me in 1987 with the complaint of diabetic mellitus since June 18, hypertension since 1981, loss of weight, pain and numbness in the leg while walking. His FBS is 186 mg/person and PPBS is 350 mg/person. He was on diabetes and his blood pressure was 170/90 mm of Hg. He is easily annoyed and irritated, though basically cheerful. If he becomes cross, he can be very obstinate. When anger When angry, he just burst out. He is very fastidious. His wife says he is very dictatorial and he always keeps his words. If he promised to do something, he will do it somehow and or the other. And he is hurried in walking, talking, and in his occupations. He had fallen in love with a girl in college but suddenly had to leave that city, and he did not have any emotional disturbance or feel sorry about it. He said, I never felt sorry for myself at any time in my life. Even if I had to start my life all again, I would leave it the same way. He had many responsibility during the emergency in 1975, as he was in the trade union. He had joined the union at the request of a friend. He felt that he was helpless, not able to do anything. In 1918 and 81, he was very tense since there was some internal disturbance, a kind of split in the union. He felt hopeless and let down. He had never expected this type of behavior from the colleague who got him in this union. He was feeling very sad about the whole thing, but he says, I don't compromise at all. At this time, he was anxious about his wife's ill health. He has no children. His hobby are reading book on business, classic literature, listening to Indian classical music, and he believed in socialism and gives speeches on the subject. He used to dream of water, missing the day of exam or being late for exam. His nails are ripped and he has a prominent arcus senilis, knobby nose, and he sweat profusely. The sweat stain yellow and leave a salty deposit on the cloth. In my observation, Mr. M is very fastidious and responsible. He is responsible for others and himself, especially about his health. He keeps his medical record in order and check his health, blood sugar and pressure with great regularity. He is very regular, punctual in his visits to doctor, and is extremely agitated by the slightest fluctuation in his blood pressure, blood sugar values. He also take a responsibility of the maintaining the health record of not only his wife but also the maid servant. I have give him aurum metallicum 1m, with which his blood sugar was very much under control. He was taken off antibiotic drugs, and however his blood pressure was not well controlled. Then I gave the aurum arsenicosum 1m, with which his blood pressure came within the normal range with a few occasional fluctuations. His nature improved very well, and now explanation is what in this man we see feature of both aurum metallicum and arsenicosum. He is a highly responsible and dictatorial like a aurum metallicum, and also fastidious and hurried like the arsenic. He is very caring about his wife who is ill. This care for his wife combined the care about the relative of the arsenic and the responsibility of aurum metallicum. Indifference to domestic affairs and duties is an important symptom of the aurum arsenicosum, and it is represent the failed side of the drug, feels tremendous sense of domestic duty. Even the physical signs of this man are divided between the aurum metallicum like a knobby nose and the arsenicum like ribbed nails. The most important incident in his life was one where the very person who got him into the responsible position let him down, leaving the burden of responsibility on him. The main theme of the aurum arsenicosum is that he feels responsible but also feels that he could be cheated by the person for whom he is responsible. The arsenic person takes much care of others. This is kind of guarantee against being let down by them. Thus it has both mistrustful and care for others. In aurum arsenicosum, the responsibility accompanies the care for others, because on the one hand there is a guilt like a delusion neglected his duty, and but also the mistrust and feeling he will be let down like a arsenic. So the main component of aurum arsenicosum are care and responsibility, and it is seen as a responsible caring person. The rubric of aurum arsenicosum are censorious with everybody, conscientious about the trifle, delusion wrong he has done, reproach himself, neglect her children. Is this a single symptom mentioned? Indifference to domestic duties, This is the first metallic salt we have studied, and we see how the components come together. Next metallic salt is merc iodatum flavors. Merc iodatus flavors combine the quality of mercurius and the iodide. The single symptom of this drug is delusion man in the room intending to perforate his throat with the gimlet. The rubric shows the quality of iodine, which has the feeling of sudden great violent impulse of being betrayed, fear of other approaching him. It has a morbid impulse to kill. There is a feeling of sudden murderous attack which needs an impulsive violent reaction. Mercurius, on the other hand, has the delusion murdered he would be, delusion surrounded by enemy. In Mercurius, the suddenness of the attack is not evident. When we combine mercurius and iodine, there emerges the feeling he is going to be murdered in a sudden attack. Thus, mercurius iodidus flavors has this combined feeling in its rubric, showing the theme of attack and defense and sudden and violent. In my experience with the mercurius iodatus flavors, these people have a violent, destructive, and impulsive quality, but the destructive quality is not as much as the mercurius solubilus. I found that these patients are extremely energetic, like iodine, very active, have a very strong desire to travel, like mercurius and iodine, and need to be occupied. Hence, they take up the job where they are travel. The energy seems inexhaustible, and they are very cheerful and talkative, may even sing and whistle, a sort of elated manic state. At the same time, they can get intensely angry, especially when they feel betrayed or attacked. The symptoms are right-sided as opposed to mercurius iodatus rubrum, which has an affinity for the left-sided. The pathology is destructive and gland are often involved. They may crave salt and sour things.